For almost 3 years, I've worked overnight at a fast food restaurant as the drive-thru attendant. My college class schedule was unusual and was only part-time, so working overnight actually made my life a lot easier to get schoolwork done during the day. For the most part, my shifts would go by slow and would be very uneventful. However, sometimes a strange thing would happen. My manager always did his best to make sure two people were scheduled overnight. But over once in a while, have to be alone for the night. Thankfully, most of the weird things would happen with my coworker there with me, but this one incident, I wasn't so lucky. My main coworker that worked overnights with me was taking his vacation week, so that left me alone 3 out of the 5 night shifts that I worked that week. My first 2 nights went as usual with no problems. It was slow and all the drive-thru customers' orders were small and simple. And the third night, it started out slow as well, with only 5 to 10 customers coming every hour, ordering a small snack or a drink. Then around 2 a.m. there was a long break of nobody showing up for almost 45 minutes. I kept my headset on in case someone pulled into the drive-thru, but decided to start cleaning while I had the extra time. There wasn't really anything else to do, so cleaning was my way to passing the time. I'm not really sure how long I was cleaning for, as I was never interrupted, but I passed by the front counter at one point and noticed bright headlights shining through the front window of the store. The car was parked right outside the doors. Our restaurant's dining room closed at 9 p.m. every night and only kept the drive-thru open. So it was a little weird that someone was parked there, but of course I didn't really think too much of it, as they could have just parked to pull up direction on their iPhone or something. So I continued my cleaning. A few minutes later though, my headset beeped, signaling that a customer was in the drive-thru lane. I quickly made my way to the window and asked how I could help them. A man spoke softly, asking for the large soda. I told him to pull forward and began pouring his fountain drink as usual. The guy pulled up really quickly though, so I was still pouring drink, but I could see the corner of my eye that he was looking in the window at the restaurant. So people did this, but I never understood why, because it makes really awkward. But I finished up and handed him the drink. He gave me exact change, and I thanked him, telling him to have a good night. As I stepped away and went back to cleaning, I wiped down a few counters and reorganized a small shelf, but as I passed by the window, I jumped back a little as the man was still there, staring at me. I say, "Did you need something else, sir?" He didn't respond for a moment, not even reacting to my question, before he finally said no and drive away. The guy must have been sitting there looking in the window for a whole 5 minutes while I was cleaning, which was really creepy and weird. But I knew the doors to the restaurant were locked, so I still felt somewhat safe. Again, I kept my headset on and went over the front counters to wipe them down. A few more minutes go by before there's a beep in the headset again, but when I got to the computer and asked what they wanted, nobody answered. I asked again and I still got no response, so I turned around and looked at the camera behind me that showed live footage of the drive-thru line. Strangely, the car passed the ordering station and was stopped several feet behind the window I was standing at. I looked closer and could recognize the car as the man from just a few minutes ago. At this point, I was starting to get very nervous, so I backed away from the window and stood around the corner. The way I was positioned, I was out of the sight from the window, but I could steal the footage from the camera. I couldn't tell what the guy in the car was doing, but I could see the movements in the grainy video. A minute later, he pulls the car up quickly and started banging on the window aggressively. I was startled, but after a few moments, he speeds his car out of the drive-through lane and parks right in front of the driver door. His swings open and the man gets out holding something in his hand, and as he quickly approaches the front door, I immediately grabbed the store phone and called 911 as the man aggressively shook the handle, trying to force the locked door open. Thankfully, he gave up after a few tries and ran back to his car, driving away. The police make sure I was okay when they arrived, and I told them what had happened. From what I heard, they came back in the morning to speak with my manager and collect the camera footage so that they could get a license plate. I was never updated on the situation after that though, so I'm not really sure if he was caught. I always assumed the man was attempting a robbery, but there was no way to know for sure. Being alone that night made me an easy target though, and a lot of horrible things could have happened, and there would have been no one there to help me.